Let's talk about tone in our nation's capital as we take a live look there. After protests and some 68 Democrats skipped the presidential inauguration, is it going to get worse in D.C. or can Congress work it out and get it done? Siegfried is a Republican strategist and the author of GOP GPS. Doug Schoen is a former advisor to President Bill Clinton and a Fox News contributor as well. Gentlemen, always good to see you. I'm going to jump right in.
Please.
You had 68 Democrats who decided to skip the inauguration. And really, that didn't even end up making news because no one missed them, apparently. It was not a headline. But here's what it sets up. Many of them are women, people of color. Certain groups are not going to be represented at the table if they continue to sit out. How in the world does your party justify they were elected to be there? How do they justify that?
They justify it given the protests that we saw, the million-woman march, which arguably matched in intensity and numbers the crowd at the inauguration. The country's become so polarized that what you're saying, which makes common sense, Harris, which is that we need to work together, you got to be there. But with the country dividing already and the polarization being starker and starker, there is pressure on those Democrats not to contribute, not to cooperate, thus making legislative politics more difficult.
All right, you and I are parents, and you know sometimes you have to get little Sally and little Johnny to eat their vegetables, even though you know that they don't like them, and their friends are giving them street cred for not eating them. That's what you're describing to me, because their job is to go to Washington and get along and get their jobs done. And they said that they were going to do it better. They said via Hillary Clinton, your friend, that they were going to take the high road.
Well, here's the problem. You are a very good parent and a very good mother, but there's no leadership in the Democratic Party, and there's no one there to say we all have to work together. I say it, and I believe common sense Democrats believe that, but more and more the common sense Democrats are sitting out or being marginalized, and the institutional pressures of women, minorities, the left are pulling away from eating vegetables and more just snacking on really candy, political candy.
Y'all are going to get some cavities. Evan, let's move on, because your party is also going down kind of an interesting tone road this weekend. If you didn't see it, let's watch it together. Now the White House Chief of Staff, not incoming any longer, Reince Priebus, and our own Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday talking about the tone that the president took with the press. Watch.
President Trump said in his inaugural address that every decision he makes will be to benefit American families. How does arguing about crowd size do that?
Because it's really not about crowd size. What it's about is honesty in the media. The media from day one has been talking about delegitimizing the election, talking about the Russians, talking about everything you can imagine except the fact that we need to move this country forward.
We got a lot going on besides talking about size of crowds and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we do, but we also saw that what Sean Spicer and that statement did was it was able to wag the dog, so to speak. Everybody was talking about the march yesterday and how many millions of people turned out for that. And the second Sean Spicer came out, we were back to talking about crowds. It was a strategic calculation to do that.
Do you think it was a good idea?
I think we should have moved on, and President Trump and his administration should be talking about the benefits of the plans that exist so far, such as the infrastructure plan, to reduce poverty through providing broadband for our kids in our schools. That is something where Democrats can even come on board and say, this is a rational idea, and it would help to unite the country.
That's my key. What Evan is suggesting is what we need to do. Promote bipartisanship on issues like tax reform, the environment, and helping both minority communities and rebuilding our roads and bridges. But Harris, here's the problem. The parent in this situation is the President, Donald Trump. He has to do more than he did to bring people together. Yes, he spoke about the people against Washington, but he's got to deal, as you said, with the legislative process, and he has to do everything possible to bring us together.
One other quick point. I think that President Trump and his administration should recognize that the press is never going to be on his side, so trying to keep them honest and accountable is a fool's errand.
Well, I don't even know from listening to Sean Spicer, whom I've talked to recently, I don't know that it's about being on the president's side. I don't think that that's what it's ever really been about, although we saw a lot of media on the side of President Obama and getting criticized, even from you, Doug Schoen,
That's true.
from that happening more often than not. But it is about fairness. right? And it is about accuracy, and it is about actually reporting what is big news to report and what is breaking news. And then we have all of the people who are the disciples of that who have to tell us what that's going to be. So as you pointed out, is it going to be crowd size or is it going to be Obamacare? For us right now, let's talk Obamacare.
Sure.
All right, we've got the Patient Freedom Act coming out tomorrow. Your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are we need to replace Obamacare so that 20 million people are able to have care, that we do not end up in a situation where costs spiral because insurance companies can't afford to provide reasonably priced care. And right now, we do not have a clear path for providing that care. And yeah, everybody, Republicans certainly want to replace Obamacare, but we have no idea what it's going to really be.
All right, so tomorrow, what do you expect to learn?
Well, I hope to learn that we are providing more competition where insurance companies can work across state lines and people can also get into insurance pools.
Coming.
Access is coming. At the same time, I want to have Republicans reassure the American people that we're not going to be falling into this Democratic talking point of we're going to repeal the health care of 20 million Americans. That's not really a good American value.
Isn't it a risk?
It is a risk, and I hope we don't do that because it would be a very bad trap to fall into.
Well, from what I'm seeing, just from the information that came out today with Senator Collins and this now consortium group that are going to come out in this news conference and tell us all about this, is that there were certain things that they were going to hit, and your access across state lines and putting the power back in the hands of people was important. You know, we had recently on John Fun, I don't know if you caught that a few minutes ago. So one of his criticisms of the Obama administration was that they would wholesale change the law without Congress. It looks like Republicans, and of course they have bicameral leadership now. They have both sides of Congress. It looks like they're in a position to do better.
Yes, it is. And we can do so by making improvements on the law that is existing. We can keep the pre-existing conditions package. Nobody doesn't like that. We can also go out and find ways to make it more efficient. We can allow people to group together, and we can legalize inexpensive health care.
I know Republicans are going ahead. John mentioned this. I've heard others say that they're going to have to sell this whole idea to the American public so they don't get scared. But, Doug, a quote from you. I'm going to quote you to you.
Oh, wow.
Democratic scaremongering is making GOP nervous, but 75% of the public still wants repeal or dramatic change in Obamacare.
Right. And what Evan spoke of and what I spoke of there is actually a real problem. Because if there isn't bipartisanship and the Democrats do promote fear instead of cooperating, we'll get the worst of all possible worlds, polarization, no legislation, and a very angry and restive public.
Let's hope they didn't take the cue from the outgoing President Obama, who said don't rescue them when it came to working with Republicans.
Boy, is that bad. And really, the Republicans have to work with the Democrats, too.
Doug, Evan, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Back soon.